flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
What's going on, Hive? DA, how you doing, brother?
What's going on?
If you guys have been in the Hive for a while, I am reusing this front page because the last couple of days, it's made me absolutely sick at the narrative that has been going on around this case. DA, how many times we heard that this was sexually motivated? How many times we heard the serial killer? How many times we heard the DNA and the whole CODIS thing now being talked about, which I know we want to bring up this evening at some point. I can't take it anymore. As far as the quick announcements that I have, here is the lineup for this Sunday's Hive Mind Roundtable. DA, I didn't see your name in there. You didn't see I'm joking.
I figured you didn't want me on that. You already got me on a whole night every week.
No, I know. All right. Drum roll. This upcoming Sunday, we're going to have Truth and Neurons, Robin the Redneck, and Sherlock Romes. We got a busy week coming up here, Hive. We got the roundtable on the 27th. On Monday, the 28th, we got Scott Payne. As you all know, he went undercover inside of the Outlaws. And then shout out to Devil's Advocates for bringing back Ali Benevento that next day on Tuesday, the 29th. So think about that, Hive. We're going to go Hive Mind Roundtable, Scott Payne, Ali Benevento. I started doing a question of the day. This one comes from our Discord from Crisis. What is the number one thing on your bucket list, or what is your favorite completed bucket list event? You want to go first?
I have never been on a big cruise line. It's one of the things that I said I'm going to do before I die. So it's a small thing, but that is on my bucket list. It's the first thing that popped in my head. So definitely want to do that. And my wife wants to go to a warmer climate. I want to do the mountain kind of stuff in the snow. So I'm cool with that.
What's your favorite bucket list item you've checked off the list?
I self-published, a couple of books, and I've always wanted to be a writer. That was my number one thing that I wanted to do. So I may not have gotten published by a publisher, but I did it myself, and I checked off a book, and I feel good about it because like one of the books I wrote was like 400 and something pages long. Wow. And I'm like, that's no joke. Like that's a legit book, and it's good, and I'm proud of it. So I think that was my bucket list thing that I've checked off.
I still actually have the first. So my book was 47 pages. I still have from my editor the one that I got bound from FedEx, and it's got all of the notes in it still. I keep it next to my desk. So
that's awesome.
I recently published The Tall Poppy. It's available on Amazon.
It's
not a conspiracy book. It's more so just about being the best version of yourself, and you shouldn't be afraid to do it based on what people are going to think of you. Yeah. And when you said cruises, have you ever seen the documentary What Happened to Amy Bradley?
No.
Oh, you and the wife got to watch that one of these nights. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's about a woman who goes missing off of a cruise liner, and they assume she either committed suicide, she got killed, but they can't find her on the ship. And like 6 months later, somebody comes face to face with her and recognizes her, and they think that she's been being trafficked for the last handful of years, like 20 years now.
Holy crap.
There's like 3 or 4 sightings, dude. There's sightings of like this dude was in the Navy, and apparently she was in a brothel, and he didn't want to get in trouble because she had said, "You need to help me. My name is Amy. I'm blah, 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 blah." But because he's in the Navy and he's at port, he didn't want to say, "Hey, I'm at an illegal bar here." And so he didn't say anything for 3 years, dude.
I'm all over that. Yeah. I'm all over that. I will watch that.
For me to quick answer this, number one thing on my bucket list is I'd really like to build up a business as I'm grinding with my liquor company, and then either have it turn into, a full-blown company or exit it. Like I've been grinding at that. I've been really working hard at that. So
you mean exit it as maybe selling it off and going to do something else? Yeah.
Yeah. Or staying a part of like the board if it gets big enough.
Yeah.
So that's been my big project that I've been working on. The favorite completed bucket list item, I would say so far, I won a national championship in college for football.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Pretty cool. And I'm in. I always make the joke though, like I'm in the College Football Hall of Fame, but not for athletics. You had to be a 3-year starter and then have a 3.85 cumulative GPA for those 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's called the National Hampshire Honor Society. So I could say I'm in the College Football Hall of Fame, but it's really just academic. It's like student athlete thing. So,
but you played though, right?
Yeah.
What'd you play? What position?
I was a meathead DA. I was an outside linebacker. And
yeah.
You wouldn't know it. I think I have a picture. You know what? I'm gonna hold this up to the camera because it's hilarious. I used to. Right now, I weigh like 195.
Uh-huh.
What do you think my playing weight was? And I wasn't like fat, but what do you think my playing weight was?
220. Oh wow, 240. Is it could have been 240?
237, bro.
237.
That was like I said. I drank a half.
You were like, whoop whoop! I'm coming for you, quarterback.
Oh yeah. I drank a half gallon of chocolate milk every single night, and I'm pretty sure it was like vitamin D whole chocolate milk. I put on, I think, 21 pounds in a month because I had transferred in and I was too light. But hang on, here's the picture. I hope you guys will be able to see it. I had some flow too.
Yeah. You don't look heavy there. You don't look heavy there at all, really.
No, I never wore it bad. Everybody's been talking about this. I obviously put this air quote in there. I tried to find a picture of what looked like Trump running after Bryan, but it says, admit you didn't do it. And when I read this, and if you haven't seen this, this was this Truth Social or X?
Yes. Yeah. So Truth Social. Yeah.
He says, so President Trump said, Bryan Kohberger, who was responsible in Idaho for the deaths of 4 wonderful young souls, has made a plea bargain deal in order to avoid the death penalty. These were vicious murders with so many questions left unanswered. While life imprisonment is tough, it's certainly better than receiving the death penalty. But before sentencing, I hope the judge makes Kohberger, at a minimum, explain why he did these horrible murders. There are no explanations. There is nothing. People were shocked that he was able to plea bargain, but the judge should make him explain what happened. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I don't know if I'm the only person that feels this way. That is it seems like an odd temperament.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you're hitting on the same thing I did. So many people are acting like, oh, there's Trump going after him like everybody else. I'm like, no, look at this. Trump said, where's the fucking answers? Where are the answers? There is nothing. We should know by now what exactly he did. That's how I took that. And I think you did too, right? He puts an all cap. There's nothing. How do we not know what he did? I would almost say, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I would almost say Trump's going to like, hey, I'm not sure he took a plea. He did it.
That's how I took it too.
If we don't know what the hell he did, how do we know his plea is good?
That's exactly how I took it too, especially with these were vicious murders with so many questions left unanswered.
Yeah.
And then while life imprisonment is tough, it's certainly better than receiving the death penalty. It's almost like he's like, I know that you took this plea deal to avoid the death penalty.
Yeah.
And look, I feel like same thing with the Idaho 4 case, where when people who think Bryan's guilty, they hear Idaho 4, they hear Bryan, they say something, maybe he didn't do it, the blinders go on. I think there's obviously a very similar temperament towards President Trump, but this is something that we've all looked into. And while I don't know, it doesn't read like he's going to go slam the cell door on him. It reads like he's like, I want to know what happened here.
I got a theory, and I think Trump watches Birdie and Devil's Advocates, and he's like, those motherfuckers are onto something. There's some unanswered questions here. And so he went out there and said, how come we don't have answers to this?
I'd love to ask you a few questions. Where's the Epstein list? I mean, I don't know if he'd get briefed on it, but if the feds were involved, you got to remember, Pam Bondi did talk about the Sinaloa cartel going down in Eugene, Oregon. Yeah. That's on that same Pacific Northwest highway.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I doubt, Trump spends a lot of time, watching YouTubers, but I bet you someone in his inner circle has probably said something to Trump like this: man, there's a lot of unanswered questions in this case. This is a crazy case. You wouldn't believe it, what's going on out there. And people want answers. And so if anybody just even said that, Trump would be like, really? Like, this isn't an open and shut case? And they're like, no, man, it's not an open and shut case. Like, there's more. And so he goes out and puts out there, why don't we have the answers? Like, I don't know that how much he's dug into it, but I wouldn't be a surprise that someone close to him is advising him, look, there's a lot of people in America who don't think this is a straight up deal, that we don't have the answers. We need to have the answers. Why didn't he tell us where the weapon is? Why didn't he tell us something, anything? Tell us anything that only the killer could have known, so that we know it had to have been you. Just give us one thing that only the killer could have known. And that would be helpful, but we got nothing.
Maybe Barron is watching it. We were joking around last night with Sammy T Mafia and Phoenix Talks were up here, and I had asked them in the Hive, what is the biggest plot twist, the most unexpected plot twist that could come out of the sentencing hearing? And a couple of the ones that I want to highlight from the YouTube comments were, he proposes to Ann Taylor. He becomes a spokesman for the Elantra car line. The one that me and Sammy kind of joined up on was like, you know, the Morgan Wallen or the UFC walkouts where somebody's carrying a boombox behind them. It's Elon Musk with a t-shirt that says Neuralink will fix wrongful convictions or something. I don't know. What do you think could be actually like a real life plot twist, a reasonable one outside of exoneration or switching a plea? Anything you could see coming out of left field?
Yeah, the two biggest shocks will be, and again, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the two biggest shocks I would see that are legitimate options are a change of plea, which I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be a shocker, and that would disturb. And again, if he did change his plea at the last minute, it wouldn't go well for him and his because they'd be like, why'd you string all the families along and make everybody go out to Boise and then tell them at the last second, hey, I changed my mind. Like, it would do so bad on his next go around. But anyways, that would be one. But honestly, the one that I'm worried about the most is someone is going to jump the bar and go to try to choke him out, or something like that, or do some kind of act of violence on the courthouse steps to somebody that to just take out their anger, because there are people who feel like that man needed to be killed, not just put in, not be, as some would say, not be given 3 hots in a cot and be able to cruise out the rest of his life living a full life when he should be dead. And so I'm afraid, as the emotions get spun up in that courtroom, that the most likely thing is going to happen is somebody's going to jump the wall and try to get at him, and then it's going to be freaking chaos in that courtroom. But
I want to ask a question. I don't know if you have the answer to it. To that point, why is it in society, and I guess we can only speak about America, I'm sure this goes on all over the world, but what is it about society and certain issues that the news seems to just be able to dial in on? This case being one of them. They know which nerve to strike to cause division. And I'm curious, in this case, what is the reason for the division? Is it because he's creepy and he's a guy? Is it because they've just plastered his face out there? I can't seem to put my finger on what is the nerve that they struck, because on paper, if you look at it without a name on it, we've gone over this a million times. I don't know if you get a conviction. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I don't know. It has, the case had the elements to grab national attention with the college students, young kids, and I hate to use the word like Howard Bloom, that pretty people, they were so beautiful and had their life ahead of them. So it gave all of the elements that the news likes, which is pretty young people who, were viciously murdered. And it's they love mass shootings. They love mass murder in the media in general. But I don't know this. I think as it gained traction, I think is what happened. In the early stages, they didn't know what they had. And as it gained traction, the unprecedented gag order, by the way, did no justice to anybody. It just left room for conspiracies to fly, which made it a more interesting story. I guess in a way, you could almost say that was part of the plan, right? Is they gagged the thing, and then we can have a whole bunch of shit to talk about for 2.5 years because nobody's allowed to talk about it. We can just make up shit on the fly. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing that I seem to see the most is you're being disrespectful to talk about this.
Yeah.
You stop grifting, stop this. And I'm always confused because why is it that I would argue, and there's no disrespect, I'm not disrespecting myself, I'm not disrespecting the Hive or you, DA. People in the whole scope of media, no real pull when it comes to the masses.
Yeah.
We get destroyed by those people. Yet the news isn't even speculating. They're not investigating. They're not being journalists.
Right.
And they seem to get the pass. That nerve, whatever that is it lack of authority? Is it the how dare you think freely? I don't know. But that seems to be one of the nerves.
Well, I feel, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like mainstream media has been proven to be losing ground. I mean, more people watch some YouTubers than CNN's broadcasts or Fox broadcasts. Joe Rogan has a way bigger audience than CNN on any of their things. And so they're losing to social media. And so it seems that their tactic is, let's say social media, and let's shame them all the time and say they're not real journalists. They need to stay in their own lane, which is just crazy conspiracy theories. Nobody should take them seriously. If you want the truth, you should come to a real media source like CNN, ABC, NBC, whatever the case may be. And I think they're losing their ass, and I think they're afraid. And so the tactic is to basically name, call, shame, ridicule, and try to humiliate your competition, because we're their competition now.
We are their competition now as a whole, and the masses, yes. But it seems like it's even the people that consume the mainstream. And I'm sure there's people in here. I don't know the last time that I had a mainstream news on my television. The only time that I've seen anything is when I'm doing this stream and we're watching a clip. And most times, every time, I've only seen that because of social media and somebody else posting it, and then I'll watch it.
Yeah.
If you haven't broken free of the mainstream news, I'm curious if it's habit, like comfort of this is my routine at night. Because it can't be for news anymore at this point, right? You can maybe get general updates of what's going on in the world, but it seems like unless you have the ability to internally filter, you're not really getting much other than a headline. Sensationalized headlines is a nerve too that they've hit on with here. I wanted to get into the CODIS stuff, DA.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Because there seems to be a little bit of confusion as if this is like newer drama about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. So the reason why, I did an hour-long rant, as I often do rants, on the Ashley Banfield, Steve Gonzalez interview, in which one of the things, and it happened very, very fast, and I lost my shit on it, and because I felt like, am I missing something? Like, for 2.5 years. So here's what he said. He said in passing very quickly, we knew in the very early stages of this about the knife sheath, the DNA, and the CODIS hit. And I about lost my shit. I said, what the fuck do you mean, Steve Gonzalez, the CODIS hit? There was no CODIS hit, because the whole reason why they had to go to Othram Labs to develop BK's profile, which Othram couldn't do it, then they had to give it to the federal government, FBI, to develop it to get Bryan Kohberger, is because there was no CODIS hit. He wasn't in CODIS because Bryan Kohberger didn't have a criminal record. So when he said we knew about the knife sheath, the DNA, and the CODIS hit, I was like, I paused. I was like, what do you mean CODIS hit? We've been told over and over again, nothing came up in CODIS. It was not a hit. So I still don't have the answer. And then I heard recently, Lana from Truth and Transparency was raging about the CODIS hit. And she's like, where did the CODIS hit come from? Nobody's talking about this. I'm like, I'm talking about it. How do you say there's a CODIS hit? The first story we've heard, and the story we've heard for 2.5 years, is there was no CODIS hit. Bryan Kohberger wasn't in CODIS. That's why they didn't know who Bryan Kohberger was until December 19th, which came in as a tip from the FBI, because he didn't hit. There was no hit in CODIS. So it does lead for this question. If somebody did hit, it wasn't Bryan Kohberger. So now I want to know who it was. Or there's one other thing, and I'll get off the rant. One other thing, which is that Bryan Kohberger did hit in CODIS, but they couldn't tell you about it because CODIS wasn't in there as a criminal. He was in there because he's known by the FBI already, and they had him already in their database, and they didn't want to say, oh, we know it's Bryan Kohberger. He hit in CODIS, but we can't tell you why he hit because he wasn't a criminal.
What does the CODIS hit really do to the rest of the case, right? It would change everything. I believe it would change everything. Either they would continue to keep it under wraps and they'd lie about it, and then it'd be very easy for him to prove that they're withholding evidence. Or if they got a CODIS hit and he came back and they were aware of him, or he's working for them, some sort of CI, I don't know if you could even apply for an internship without giving your prints before.
Right.
On even the most simple level. Now, wasn't there something with CODIS, and if you said this and I missed it, I apologize. Wasn't there something with CODIS where they couldn't resubmit it because it would mess up?
So, yes. So what happened was, from what my memory was, Ann Taylor hit the question, why, when you knew there was unknown blood from unknown male B on a banister inside the house, and you knew there was unknown male blood D, as in dog, in a glove outside the house, why didn't you test those? And the answer was twofold. One, we already knew it was Bryan Kohberger because we had his DNA on the knife sheath, so there was no need to test any other blood, which is the biggest horseshit answer I've ever heard. And then number two was, well, we were afraid because we thought that by submitting a different sample into CODIS, it would ruin the hit that we had. And so we thought it was kind of like a one and done thing. Since we already had submitted to CODIS, we thought submitting another DNA to CODIS would ruin the CODIS hit that we've got. And I'm like, none of that makes sense. So the idea was that they didn't want to multiple submit to CODIS. So they didn't submit the names, and the other one was, well, we already knew who it was because we had Bryan Kohberger's name. So none of that makes sense. I can't explain it to you because it doesn't make sense at all what they said.
So this isn't really breaking news, is it?
No, it's breaking news in the sense that Steve Gonzalez said we knew early on, and he put it in this order. We knew early on about the knife sheath, the DNA, and the CODIS hit. Putting those three things together in that order that quickly bothers me because, again, CODIS hit my ass. You told us for 2.5 years Bryan Kohberger didn't hit in CODIS. There was no profile for CODIS. He wasn't in the system of CODIS. So there's only two answers to that. They did have a hit and it wasn't Bryan Kohberger. That's a problem. Or it was a hit and it was Bryan Kohberger and they couldn't tell us why it was Bryan Kohberger. That's also a problem. It just requires more people refusing to accept that and being extremely vocal so that the media can't hide it anymore. They can't pretend like, oh, well, you're only the rare people on YouTube give a shit about secrecy and all this like that. And make it clear that it's the public that has the problem with it. But I don't know how you do that other than, again, completely protest on the steps of every courtroom who has sealed documents and hide shit from the public. And say we're not going to tolerate this anymore. Fucking open up your records. Quit hiding shit. There's not supposed to be secret trials in America.
You need your own like parallel system. Stop asking permission from power. If we disagree with it, it's like let them scream on CNN, let them censor TikTok, let them do all this. When we stop needing them is when things will change. And in a court of law, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, being a sovereign citizen. And how you look at maritime law and why we all have birth certificates and what our social security numbers really mean. And I'm sure you've gone down those rabbit holes as well, DA. I'll stop because I'm going to open a can of worms where I won't be able to stop explaining it. Just look up maritime law. Do people need to start to learn common law? And is that a thing where that's the parallel system? There's a lot of really, really good arguments. I'm convinced that common law is the law of the land, that's what this was supposed to be. And maritime law came in and took over. Yeah.
And I guess that's my shtick on my Devil's Advocates channel is I'm trying to educate. I'm always shouting from the rooftops, something that like Sammy T said in here earlier, which was basically when then the law itself, when the prosecution itself breaks the laws to convict people, it's just, she didn't word it that way. But the point being is that's my problem. We can't call ourselves a nation of laws and then have the very prosecution against you, breaking your civil liberties, breaking the law, breaking the United States Constitution to put people away. Then we might as well not be a nation of laws. It's telling people laws only exist for the little people. And if that's the kind of country we live in, then we've been lied to about what America is. We either have a great system that believes in people's innocence, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, or we have a complete joke and mockery, and you can break the law and you can spy on people illegally and you can do whatever you want. And when you get caught, you'll just hide it and take a plea deal and not have to show to the American public how much you're spying on people, how much you're breaking their constitutional rights, because we have no law in this country. All right, I would try to slow down a little bit for people who haven't heard this before. So for those who are not super familiar, because I know that your audience isn't super Luigi Mangione, let me try to give you the 30,000 foot overview. Luigi Mangione is the alleged shooter of Bryan Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, who is alleged to have shot and killed Bryan Kohberger on the downtown streets of Manhattan on December 4th.
Bryan Kohberger.
Sorry. I do that all the time. I do that all the time. Shot Bryan Thompson. Luigi Mangione allegedly shot Bryan Thompson outside of an investor conference on December 4th, 2024. That date's important in this little expose today. And by the way, this expose was brought to me by somebody on my stream in my Discord. One of the first things I said with the Luigi Mangione situation is the shooter, by the way, was masked when he shot Bryan Thompson. He walked calmly away from the shooting scene, and then he jogged across the street, got onto an e-bike, and went into Central Park. He disappeared for quite some time, and then later on, law enforcement saw an individual dressed similarly on an e-bike leaving the park, and we're all over him. And I've always said, what if there was a shuffle in the park and the actual shooter walked out the other direction and someone who looked like the shooter went out the different direction? Then all eyes were on the wrong person the entire time. And I asked that question early on. Was this some kind of grand game of, if you've ever seen the old movie Thomas Crown Affair, they did a little thing where everybody came in dressed with bowler hats and did a whole shuffle, and law enforcement didn't know who to follow. That kind of thing was happening on December 4th. Multiple people with black uniforms, with the backpack on, with the mask on, were walking around, and law enforcement was following people all over the place, thinking it was the shooter, and they were getting confused. And I thought that was done on purpose. Well, then you found out that the shooter left behind a bag of Monopoly money, and people were like, "What the hell was the Monopoly money? And was that a message? What does that mean?" And then you find out that when Luigi Mangione is picked up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and that's going to be a big part of this, we find out more about Luigi Mangione, that he was a gamer, that he graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, and he had co-created a club called Upgrade, which was the University of Pennsylvania Game and Research Development Environment, I believe, Upgrade. And they were a bunch of gamers. And so I thought, oh, well, a bunch of gamers just played a game on the feds, and they dropped a bag of Monopoly money as an Easter egg. And then you started to go, now all of a sudden you find out that Luigi Mangione had a profile on X where he had a picture of himself and his spinal cord injury that he had, which has a medical denial of claim issue around it. So Luigi Mangione had a picture of himself with a Pokemon, and the Pokemon was Breloom. And people gamers, here's the thing. It's like Easter eggs are being hidden for gamers and people who are young enough to start looking for the Easter eggs. So he has a picture of himself with his profile with Breloom, and every Pokemon has a number. That number is 286. So some people started to look and they're like, hey, here's a weird coincidence. The very last post that Luigi Mangione made on his X account was number 286. The Pokemon on his screen is 286. Is he trying to send a message? So then people dug deeper and they said, wow, in the medical industry, 286 is a denial of claim code. What it means is when you get denied by an insurance company paying your bill, you have a chance to appeal that. But that appeal runs out after about 30 days. And if it does, then it's called 286. You ran out of times for your appeal. Ultimate decision, you don't get paid for it, right? So then it was like, well, did Luigi Mangione just make a hidden Easter egg to point people to 286, right? So then you start going down that thing. And I just want to point out, so as we start to lay this out, I want to point out, this is Newsweek. I consider Newsweek a pretty reputable thing. It's not like New York Post where it's a bit of a tabloid and you have to question. Newsweek vets stories very well. Here you see on the screen, Luigi Mangione's conspiracy theories flood social media. Of the thing I want to talk about, Luigi Mangione, it says, amateur sleuths have focused on cryptic symbols, video games, hidden Bible references, and the number 286. Right here, Breloom, a grass-type Pokemon, is listed as number 286 in the franchise. It talks about that. And then, adding to the intrigue, Mangione was arrested 286 miles from Thompson's murder. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Now, when I looked it up on Google Maps, it wasn't exactly 286. But again, Newsweek cited it as 286. And there are paths you can take that take you to 286 miles, which might tell you something right there. A good internet sleuth might be saying, okay, where do you have to pass? The roads do you have to take to get exactly 286 miles? Was there an intentional thing? And remember about the monopoly thing. Monopoly, Altoona, Pennsylvania, Monopoly was a big game for McDonald's for forever. So Luigi Mangione gets arrested in a McDonald's, which used to have the Monopoly game. Pennsylvania Railroad ends in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It was one of the first places that the last stop was. To make the passenger cars go to Altoona, Pennsylvania, they had to establish the horseshoe curve. Luigi Mangione tried to check into the horseshoe curve inn right before getting arrested in the McDonald's. Was he making a hint that he's got a whole bunch of shit tying into Pennsylvania Railroad, monopoly money, the whole thing about the establishment, 286 miles away, but then somebody dropped this bomb. Luigi Mangione and then number 286. What's the correlation? So I'm not the only one picking up on this, right? New York City, December 4th. Again, pay attention to this date. Some claim Mangione was a criminal mastermind who planned the murder, while others have different theories. In particular, many have endorsed the 286 theory. If Mangione is truly innocent of the stated crimes, then his connections to Thompson and the number 286 is truly the world's largest coincidence. The number 286 theory stems from Mangione's X account, which we talked about, and how there was Braylon. We talked about that. We talked about those things already. The number 286 is the denial code. We talked about that. Seeing the string of events, I believe it's no coincidence. The repeated appearance of this number, the parallels between each meaning, Mangione's use of it show he is not an unfortunate bystander who's caught in a whirlwind of accusations for no reason. Although he pled innocent, he must know something about the case or is simply a symbolic killer. The inclusion of spine injury with the screws next to an image of Braylon and the Pokédex number 286 is no mistake. It's almost a signature and a meaning behind the crime, on and on and on. Now, so check this out. So somebody says to me, hey, devil's advocates. So he was arrested. He shot Bryan Kohberger. I did it again. Bryan Thompson. He shot Bryan Thompson on December 4th, 2024. The next court date, they canceled all court dates in between. The next court date is September 16th. They said, I just found out the number of days between the shooting and his court appearance is 286.
Oh my God. How does that happen?
Look at this. I asked ChatGPT, how many days are between December 4th, that's when Bryan Thompson was shot, and September 16th, which is the next court date? They did all the math. The total days between December 4 and September 16th is 286. Final answer, 286 days. It is exactly 286 days from when Bryan Thompson was shot that his next court appearance is. Now, granted, it could be coincidental. If you're one of those people and you keep thinking, oh well, yeah, you just found a date 286 days earlier and then said what happened then. But it's just another one of those, as these articles, mainstream articles, Newsweek is reporting. You know, you got the Philippian. They're talking about. There's a lot of people saying there's hidden Easter eggs, and 286 showing up all the time isn't just a coincidence. And the crazy part is, the really crazy part, and this is only fit for Birdie's show, is when you start talking about a court date that might have been changed to line up with 286 days, then you start to ask yourself, is the government in on this? Because why would the government help Luigi Mangione put something at 286 days? But then I will tell you this craziest theory that I've ever thought, which is that the United States. So we just read this book called An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal, because Luigi Mangione said our healthcare system's broken, and if you want to know how broken it is, you should read this book. I did. I read the whole book, and I did reviews on my website, or on my YouTube channel. But one of the things that came out in that book was abundantly clear. The United States government has been trying to stop the out-of-control health insurance industry for a long time. And every single time a president or Congress passes a law to try to stop the insurance industry or the healthcare industry, they find a way to work around it and make it even worse for Americans and fuck them even more. And at the time that Bryan Thompson was shot, they were under multiple Department of Justice investigations. The government was going after them, and they can't stop them. The health insurance industry literally buys off judges. They were told by the Department of Justice that their acquisition processes that they were doing at the time were illegal and an antitrust violation, and they bought off a judge essentially, and the judge said, nope, we're going to let them to continue to purchase a lower company called Change Health at the time. That's what the Department of Justice had a problem with. I know it's getting really deep and over people's head.
No, I like it.
the point being is that the Department of Justice basically found that judges were being essentially bought off. That's my take. The judges were being bought off and saying, nope, we're going to let United Healthcare do it. So at some level, did somebody in the government hire a hitman to go take out Brian Thompson to do what fucking nobody else can do? Because it's not helping with legislation. It's not helping with anything else. And it's killing America. So, and then you start to ask yourself, because I literally made a video just recently and I was half joking. I even said, I'm only half joking, people. I'm not sure I'm kidding. Is the US government purposely trying to lose this case? Because they are making colossal mistakes. The arrest was illegal and almost certainly illegal. They violated his constitutional rights 4 times. Having the district attorney himself lie about a subpoena he didn't have and threaten someone with contempt of court that didn't exist, all those kind of stuff like that. This case is going to get tossed out. And is that by design? Are they trying to lose this case because maybe the shooter was doing the government's work on some kind of black op object? Because that's crazy fucking possibility in my mind at this point.
In gematria, I don't know if you ever look into that.
I don't have a problem with numerology and seeing patterns and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that. But I tried to make sure that when people are hearing about the 286 thing, that they weren't thinking I was saying this was a numerology thing per se, but more, like I said, gaming references left by gamers so that they would know. And there's more, by the way. This is
kind of just funny. I'm speculating on this. But
yeah.
You look at this, you got the second number is a 2. The first one is an 8. The last one is a 6. So if you think about it, right, like there's 3 numbers. The second number is a 2. The first is an 8. The last is a 6. Technically, those are 3 numbers in different positions that equal 286. I'm just putting that together on the fly. That's probably nothing. But now,
I have to say this, by the way. This is going to sound weird. I'm going to blow smoke up your ass for a minute.
Okay.
What you just did, by the way, I happen to know from way back when I was heavy into psychology, is a sign of high intelligence, right? You're seeing patterns that the average person wouldn't see. If you take the first digit in this number and the second digit in this number and the third digit in this number and put them together, you get 286. That's a sign of high intelligence. So kudos for you. You got a bright brain.
I'll give you the top dog.
All right. Yeah.
That a boy. Thank you. Closing thoughts. Thank you for sharing that, DA. I always enjoy getting a little bit of the Luigi updates on it. That's a case that I regret not going in on. I think I would have had a lot of fun with that. And now I'm not saying that I can't be late to the party. Right. Maybe I will look into it.
It's far from over. Ali Benevento and I were going to be talking about this case all the way through the court document. Every single time something drops, Ali and I kind of talk about the legal documents in the case. So it is far from over, and it's going to get interesting. So
I hope everybody has a great rest of their Monday evening. And with that being said, Hive, I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. Thanks, DA.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.